Welcome to the Costa Rica Travel and Living Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Baker. This is your podcast that's related to everything travel and living in this part of the world. Today, my guest is Gali Maya, founder of Buena Vida Specialty Coffee. Gali moved down to Costa Rica back in 2010 with her family from New York, so her kids could grow up being truly connected to the outdoors and nature that Costa Rica's incredible geography offers. In 2019, she founded Buena Vida Specialty Coffee to provide delicious coffee for her restaurants on the East Coast. The business is committed to the responsible and sustainable production of coffee whilst generating conservation awareness, community fellowship, farmer prosperity, and the promotion of soil regeneration. So if you like Costa Rica coffee and want to learn more, then stay tuned for this insightful insight into Costa Rica coffee production and how Buena Vida are looking to change the cycle of coffee farming for good. As ever, please don't forget to give us a like or a thumbs up if you're enjoying this episode, and please hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. So without further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Gali. Welcome, Gali Maya. How are you doing?
Great. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, not at all. It was my pleasure. For those of us who are tuning in to learn about Costa Rica coffee and all the practices today, I know you and me have been doing a fair bit of work for the last few months, and we're going to talk in detail about your business, Buena Vida Specialty Coffee, which is delicious. But as ever, I'd like to get cracking straight into the questions. Gali, can you tell me a little bit about your journey and how your trip to Costa Rica began and how long you've been here?
So I've been here 14 and a half years. It began simply because I used to live in Manhattan, where I met my husband, where we had 4 boys. I used to be in banking, internet up and down, venture capital, a little bit of everything, a lot of non-for-profit work. And when my oldest son turned around 7 and my youngest was about 2.5, my husband and I had a casual dinner conversation about how Manhattan may not be the best place we want to raise our kids. We want somewhere where they're more exposed to the real world and less than a bubble than we had in Manhattan. And we kind of pinned in a map. Where do we want to go? We want to go somewhere that's beautiful weather, very outdoor. We're both very outdoorish. Love hiking, biking, and love nature. And we start looking around, and our first choice was, believe it or not, Barcelona.
Okay.
But then we realized that almost no one speaks Spanish in Barcelona. It's all Catalan. And we wanted our kids to continue speaking Spanish. So we looked into Latin America, and the safest, easiest place in Costa Rica. We've never been here, so we decided to come and try it. And 2 months later, after a 6 months plan, we were coming for 6 months.
Okay.
After 2 months, we looked at each other and said, I think this is home. And then our daughter was born here. So now 5 kids later, all raised here. We're very happy. And I think we're here to stay. We have 3 out of Costa Rica already in college. And the other 2 still studying here. But I think this will always be home.
That's fantastic. And that's one of the questions I love to ask my guests at the end is, what do you recommend if you're thinking about moving or living in Costa Rica? And of course, always the answer is have a test period, go down for a number of months if you're able to. So you guys had never been to Costa Rica before the 6 months testing phase.
David has been for La Ruta de los Conquistadores, which is a brutal mountain biking ride race.
Yeah.
So I can't say he's been to Costa Rica. He's been to some trails, but not really. I've never been before deciding to move here. And I think the Costa Rica I moved to is very different than the Costa Rica today. I'm sad to say, because not necessarily all for the better.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of challenges that we're trying to address. And actually, coffee is one of the venues that I found to address those challenges and not be the one that's always complaining and negative and having bad news,
Yeah. Yeah. I before we jump in the coffee topic, I'd love to understand, what do you think it was about Costa Rica specifically inside that 2-month gap that you knew so soon, considering you were planning on testing it for 6 months? What was it about the country that this could be home?
The country definitely has incredible outdoor paradise. Hiking, biking, traveling here is great. The roads are safe. You can travel by car everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a pretty simple life. you can make it very simple. You can make it very attractive. And it depends how you look at the challenges. I mean, there's a great saying in Spanish, small village, big hell. Uh-huh. But you could look at it differently too. Small village also is nice and makes it very familiar and very simple. I mean, every time I complain how traffic is so horrible, all I have to do is a trip to Manhattan to remind myself that there is no traffic in San Jose. Or go to Bogota or DF in Mexico and say, oh, we really have no traffic. So everything becomes relative. And I think there's no perfect paradise to live. I think that you make your paradise wherever you live and you call it home. And because no matter where you would live will have its challenges, you got to really make the best of it. And I think we did. I think we found Costa Rica a great home. My kids thank me every day for raising them here. And they go with us everywhere. And they still believe that this is probably their favorite place to grow up.
That's lovely. That's really lovely to have that balance and have the ability to be able to compare and go, this is where, and that whether it's traffic, whether it's a lifestyle, whether it's your kids growing up, the safety, right? I wanted to ask you very briefly, you mentioned that it's a different country from the one you moved to 14 and a half years ago. What are some of those key differences that you think are now slightly more challenging?
I think number one, education. Costa Rica prides itself on getting rid of the army and investing in education. Except unfortunately, along the way, they stopped investing in education and the education plummeted. Today, we're 5 to 6 years behind on education, 52 to 54% dissertation rate, like, people dropping out of high school. The teachers, it's just a really weird hybrid between in the classroom, out of the classroom, not very technological at all. The public school system is really in despair. Yeah, I think the same goes with the healthcare. I mean, we have an incredible public healthcare system here. But again, I mean, you might have cancer and they'll see you right away, but then you might get your mammography in 6 to 8 months if you're lucky. So, I mean, it's still like everybody says, oh my God, but it's so much better than Central America. But, we don't live in comparison to our neighbors. So I think that that's just bad practice. I think that we are falling from grace. We're falling from grace with nature. Yeah. I mean, we are number one pesticides per capita. We only have 24% of our water treated. Security is a huge concern right now in the country. There is serious security concerns, and we don't have an army. So how do you address those? Yeah. There's the tourism industry. I know is addressing it because they are concerned for tourists, and we don't want to lose tourism. There's a lot, as greenwashing of the ecotourism, what they call ecotourism. Costa Rica started being the top in ecotourism, and I think we're plummeting it fast there too, because there is a lot of greenwashing. So there's people like you who really mean ecotourism and contribute and invest time and money so it flourishes. And there are people like around the rest of the world that are just takers, and they take and they don't put back into the system. So I think these are like I can go on, but I don't want to be negative on the podcast.
No, it's positive. It's good to understand the balance. This is the reality that we face.
This is the reality. And it's challenging because people like you, me, Glenn Jean-Paul from Finca Rosa Blanca, who I love working with, or Barry Roberts, or Juliana Chen, or Jesus Parrita. I mean, there's people in the industry who are doing miracles with what we have. And I think that we need more people to say, wait, I'm not just going to be here for profit. I'm going to be here for purpose. Yeah. And really take those challenges and address them, as opposed to go around them and try and shortcut how they get to do more sustainable tourism by cutting costs, which I don't believe in. Yeah, it's a really good point. And they should be invested. A lot of these people are locals. They have a lot of pride. They're based in Costa Rica. And those of us that are expats like us, we are also part of this. We live here. This is our home as well, right? So there's a lot of skin in the game for both parties, because it's now and then it's the future for our kids and their kids, right? Exactly. And then, I will never forget how we met. We met through our foundation, Fútbol por mi País. I didn't even know that you were in ecotourism. I met because you were making, we have 700 kids in the foundation, and you were giving them tacos from Tacos for Ticos. You were giving them sports shirts. I remember when the Costa Rican, selection of handicapped amputees, actually.
Right.
Was playing. And you gave them all these things. And to me, that's the investment. It goes beyond tourism. It goes into, like you said, the communities.
And the people. And just being part of it and able to give back a bit. That's very true. It's very true. Well, obviously, there's a lot of areas that you mentioned there that are being worked on, hopefully, by multiple individuals. You focus specifically your time on coffee. So what on earth got you into coffee?
Well, I think the first question is, what on earth got me into the restaurant industry?
Right.
About 18 years ago, my husband and his best friend were biking in the Hamptons, New York, and starving and couldn't agree of where to eat because everything they pointed out was either too expensive or not fun, or it just wasn't working. And as a joke, they decided that we're going to bring Gianpaolo's mom, Nonna Carolina, to the Hamptons to open a little almost soup Nazi place to have pasta and feed everyone. And, that turned into successful restaurants. We've been around 18 years, 5 restaurants later. And about 4 years ago, right before pandemic hit, Gianpaolo calls me and said, you live in Costa Rica. I hear there's amazing coffee. I hate our coffee. I'm not going to name the brand. I promise I'm not going to name the brand we had. And I said, of course, so easy. Let me go look for coffee for the restaurants. And that's how I started, just looking for coffee for the restaurants. And to my dismay, I found out that we are number 1 pesticides per capita, that there is only 1.5% declining organic coffee. At the time, I didn't know anything about regenerative. Coffee. So basically I said, okay, let me look for it. And I found incredible organic coffee and then realized 80% of farmers around the world live on the poverty line or below. Costa Rica needs help. I mean, we need to heal the soil. So I called Gianpa and said, good news, bad news. I have the best coffee, organic certified, delicious, high quality. I knew that I didn't know there was a specialty coffee category, but I found it. Mm-hmm. But it's going to require a lot of time and investment because we're not going to be like any other company out there that just buys coffee, sells coffee, and leaves, all these farmers on the poverty line or below. So we started, and Buena Vida was born, and I'm happy to say we're making headways,
That's excellent. And the mission.
We're fully emerged.
You've started a mission with an incredible vision of improving, the percentage that gets back to the farmer, as well as helping the soil, right? Before I ask you about regenerative agriculture specifically here, can you just tell me, for those who perhaps haven't tried Costa Rica coffee, can you explain what makes Costa Rica coffee so unique and sought after in the specialty market?
Yes. So unfortunately, the specialty market of Costa Rican coffee is not as big as people think. And it's mostly exported. And that's why people love it. In Costa Rica, we mostly drink Central American made coffee and not of the highest quality. And that's something that we wanted to change, bring the local market, real good Costa Rican coffee that helps farmers basically prosper and do well. A transparent value chain where everyone not just enjoys the delicious coffee, but also sees really where it comes from and helps the farmer. No greenwashing. What makes it special is, like I said before, Costa Ricans are very educated. Farmers in Costa Rica are unique. They're very smart, very educated, very knowledgeable. It's not just Costa Rica, but I think agriculture worldwide used to be a community endeavor. You used to farm as a community, you used to help each other, you used to advise each other. There weren't like all these agronomists coming to tell you what to do and not to do and what to apply and not to apply. It was a lot of trial and error between friends and neighbors. And I think Costa Rica was born that way, with a lot of beautiful relationships that today are not there anymore. And I think that's what we're doing at Buena Vida, is bringing back an ecosystem of people who have to work together. Don't compete, collaborate.
Yeah, right.
So I think the altitude, the biodiversity, the rich soils that we have or had really made Costa Rican incredible coffee. I think, again, we have fallen from grace with our coffee, because today you can find the same quality, if not better, in El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Panama for half the price. Right. So I think Costa Rica has to fight really hard to justify this insane pricing that we have. Yeah. And yes, I know labor here is more expensive, but again, we got to look at the value chain and say, we're not paying farmers enough and their workers enough. So yes, we have more expensive labor force, but we're still not compensating for it.
Yeah.
And there's not enough transparency there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It makes sense. When discussing the term that's now been in fashion for the last couple of years, and it's becoming a little bit more common in the lexicon of people, can you explain a little bit the term regenerative agriculture and how it's being implemented here in coffee farming in Costa Rica, and what benefits does that bring to both the environment and the farmers?
So before we even dig deep into regenerative coffee, I think that everybody's advertising healthy coffee. Healthy coffee, healthy humans, healthy planet, healthy ecosystem. Unfortunately, the majority of it is, greenwashing, pinkwashing, and all sorts of washing. So when you get into the term regenerative agriculture, it's pretty simple. It's basically letting nature do what nature does best. It's letting the soil regenerate itself and therefore regenerate the ecosystem, the biodiversity, bringing back species that are gone, letting the earthworms do the work, the microorganism, the fungi. We know very little about soil. And we are going to the moon and we have solar panels and electric cars, but 60% of the population does not have access to that. Yeah. And like Kiss the Ground advertises, the solution is right under our feet. And like Common Ground advertises, it's no secret. All this is as old as dirt. Mm-hmm. So all this knowledge exists. Indigenous knew that. Indigenous people knew that. If you look at the Incas and the Mayas and the American Indians and Africa was the richest agricultural continent. But we took all that away and we thought that we humans are smarter. So regenerative, Adam, is going back to basics, is going back to nature, is letting nature do nature and regenerate itself. It's not that difficult. Yeah. It's actually pretty simple. And you know what? It's extremely cost effective. If you look at the US, farmers are in so much debt, and agriculture is the number one suicide sector in the world. So at the end of the day, why create such a broken system? We used to be able to feed the world. We're no longer able to feed the world. But it's not because regenerative agriculture is not feasible. Uh-huh. It's because the way we farm, we all are, getting ourselves sick. The way we farm doesn't feed the world.
Yeah.
So, and when we feed the world, what do we feed them? Cornstarch? Cornmeal from engineered corn filled with chemicals, filled with agrochemicals, filled with glyphosites that already finally it's proven that it does cause cancer. So I think the way we farm is completely wrong. And not just for humans, for the planet, for the biodiversity. You can look at what's happening in the oceans. Temperatures are rising. Glaciers are melting. I don't know if you saw today, there were articles about the third largest glacier starting, just melted. Yeah. And people are panicking. Oh, what do we do about it? Well, what do we do about it? We stop harming the planet. So regenerative agriculture is basically that, restoring health to nature.
And am I correct in thinking that through Buena Vida, you've already implemented some of these regenerative processes with some coffee farmers here in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, so there's a few things. First of all, we did not reinvent the wheel here. There's still farms that were already doing regenerative agriculture before we got here. There are farms who did organic and regenerative before we got here. Now, organic is a step behind regenerative because organic just guarantees you using no chemicals, but it does not mean that you're regenerating. It does not mean you're restoring biodiversity. It does not mean that you're not deforesting, right? Yes. Yeah. It doesn't check all the boxes like regenerative. Regenerative, like I like to quote Gabe Brown, is meeting the farmer where they're at. You can always have expectations of where the farmers have to be and not help them get there. So the only thing Buena Vida did is we worked with Gabe Brown certification agency, verification agency called Regenified. And we certified 10 top coffee farms in Costa Rica as regenerative. The reason we did it is because you have to show benchmarks. And the benchmarks are not only soil testing, agrochemical testing, bird counting, and everything, and all kinds of certification for the sake of certification.
Yeah.
Is actually to create an ecosystems where farmers are working together. They're not competing. They're helping each other. They're sharing information. There is transparency along every step we make. You can check us. You can look at everything we do. So the verification with Gay Brand was to show transparency, to show that if we say nature-based solution, we mean it. We're not BSing.
Yeah.
If we tell you that we pay farmers right, we can show it to you. We're not just telling you. We choose our clients, and we don't choose them because we're elitist. We choose them because we want to make sure they have the same value system, that they are for profit, but not for money. And what does it mean? It means the Patagonia model. It means that we want to do things right. And there is a way to make things right from day one. Not make it right because now you need to find a purpose. You were born with a purpose. You're born with making sure that everything is coherent around you and that the ecosystem connects, just like nature.
Yeah.
Right?
It makes sense. No, I mean, it makes total sense listening. In terms of, like you say, making it right, what do you think some of the biggest challenges faced by coffee farmers are here in Costa Rica today? And you've mentioned a couple of those things as to how you address them. But for someone listening in, perhaps new to this whole field, how does this impact the farmer directly?
So the challenges are, number one, always financing. It's true all over the world. 90% of coffee farms are owned by smallholder farms. You're talking about less, like anywhere between 1 and 10 acres, the majority below 5 acres. So a farmer goes to the bank and asks for a loan. Nobody even looks at them. And if they look at them, then they have to mortgage their farm, the house, their neighbors, their mother, everything they can mortgage. Yeah. And then they usually are denied. So with Back San Jose, we created an easier access for farmers who do things right, who are doing regenerative agriculture, to come and get credit. So through Buena Vida, they have much easier access. With the Back, we worked out an incredible system where together we work on checking the credit, getting to know the farmer, and giving an easy access. That's number one. The biggest challenge is knowledge of information. If you want agrochemicals, there's agronomists a dime a dozen. You go to the top university, they all teach about agrochemicals. You'll see in the documentaries Kiss and Ground and Common Ground. Land bank universities, the majority's funding comes from agrochemicals. So the majority of the science, the information is to back it up. Mm-hmm. But if you want nature-based solutions, you can count the number of agronomists that can do that around the world. So that's a big challenge. So with ICAFE, with Earth University, with CATIE, with UCI, with ICA, with UCR, agronomists, experts, and farmers, we are creating a regenerative on-the-ground manual, meaning take science and academia, take farmers, and find a manual that meets the farmer in their farm. Yeah. Nothing of too sophisticated to implement.
Yeah.
Real simple. You want to do regenerative agriculture?
Here you go.
Regenerative agriculture for dummies with a lot of science to back it up.
Yeah.
We're talking to Earth University and we're talking to UCI. We're going to certify agronomists on the ground. So they could be easy access for farmers. So we're very excited about that. We're getting a lot of help from Understanding Ag and Kiss the Ground. Kiss the Ground has been incredible. They have so much knowledge, and we call SOS all the time with questions and what to do. What do I do? Farmers call me. It's like, Galli, I want to do regenerative ag. Where do I start? And I'm like, I'm a banker. I'm not an agronomist. I'm learning a ton.
But you have the connections. Yes.
But we have the connections. Yeah. And I got to say that Understanding Ag, as well as Kiss the Ground, Common Ground, even the producers, the directors, the people involved, people who are promoting it on LinkedIn have been an incredible source of information. And that's when I know the ecosystem is successful, because it's not for anything but common interest for the farmers. Yeah. And that's very encouraging.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful and very encouraging for like you say, the soil health and general, the future of agriculture, right? For someone listening in going, well, this sounds fantastic, I didn't know. How do you think consumers can participate in better practices for coffee production And what should they be looking for when buying Costa Rica coffee?
So the first advice is we have a lot of tourists. I don't know. What is it, Adam? 3 million tourists a year? What is the number?
The last 3 years have been crazy. That's the number it's increasing. Obviously, a lot from North America.
I can't even count the amount of private planes parked in Liberia and Juan Santa Maria right now. Yeah. It's insane. Commercial flights are packed. Yeah. Yet people come to Costa Rica and the first thing they do is look for a coffee tour, right? It's Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Except they go to the two main Disney World coffee tours.
Yeah.
So the first thing is support agriculture by choosing a tour. That's why I always recommend Rosa Blanca from Glen Jampol. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's real. You go to his farm, even though he's a beautiful, amazing gringo, but he has local people working there. It is organic coffee. It is regenerative coffee. And the hotel and restaurant feel local. It doesn't feel Disney World. So there's a lot of ma and pa beautiful tours. And I want the tourism industry to promote those, not Disney World. You come to Costa Rica, go local, support the local community. The other thing is, don't let people greenwash, pinkwash you. When you're looking for a healthy coffee, learn to read the labels. The consumers have to know, really, how's fair trade fair if it pays below cost to the farmers? They're not going to know that. But they should ask themselves the question, like, really, is fair trade is so fair? Why 80% of farmers live on the poverty line or below?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, you look at the, Rainforest Alliance certification. Look into it. I mean, Rainforest Alliance certification, really, what does it do for the farmer? How do they get their money? Because they're not. They're getting very little out of that. And even rainforest doesn't mean that there's no agrochemicals. Doesn't mean that there's no deforestation, really. Doesn't mean that there's biodiversity. Doesn't mean anything, really, when you look at it closely. So you took to a lot of farmers that like the certification of rainforest just because it gives some kind of a guideline. Yeah. But we need to find better guidelines. Bird friendly, really? Bird friendly? You've been to my farm. And how do I know you didn't die in the next farm when it's all filled with glyphosate and agrochemicals?
That's right. It's true.
We got to be more coherent. Yeah. We got to really dig deep. So together with Jeff Watts and Roberto Flanzer and a few other industry people, we are creating a guide. There are companies like Carabela Coffee, Azahar Coffee, Mayorga Coffee. I'm not going to mention them all, but there are a lot of good companies that do good. We need to create a directory that if you really are doing good and it's verifiable, you should be on that directory. Because otherwise, I think it's very hard for consumers to know. I mean, they come to Costa Rica and they should already know. First of all, if a coffee costs $9.99, you already know the farmer is really not making any money and living in poverty.
Yeah.
So the number one guide is that. Now, that doesn't mean that people should just go price their coffee now at 20 to show that they're paying the farmer. So where is the balance? How do we guide consumer? Is by creating a directory that helps consumer find, because on their own, they won't. You come to Costa Rica and you already know the airport is filled with coffee that stars farmers. It's filled with all the advertising. I already discovered that it's hard. It's hard for consumers, but we can guide them. And every day we're going to have more information.
Yeah, and trying to show them that you can take a moment to be a conscious consumer and read the packet and try and understand. And that's not just within coffee, right? That's in a number of other different fields across the whole agricultural industry. You had the same thing about meat, about rice grain. Really valid point, and it's just trying to take that moment to be conscious. And then I think that's a good line that you mentioned. If it's $9.99, that's probably not getting back to the farmer that much. So yeah, certainly something to be.
But then, Adam, you don't want somebody to just jack it up to $20 just so it appears the farmers.
You feel like you're paying for something, so it has to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I've been to a lot of websites where they advertise that, here is Pedro and here is Julian and here is this and that, and we work directly with farmers. It's almost impossible for consumers to know. I was very impressed. There is a coffee company in the US called Big, B-I-I-G. It's Bob and Michelle Fish. They do an incredible work. They have over 400 coffee franchise coffee shops. They do an incredible work. And I love them because they prove the model that you could be big and successful, but you can still work on the ground with farmers. And I always ask them to teach me, how do they teach their consumers how to know that what they're doing is right? I know it because I've seen firsthand their farmers and I keep talking to them and digging in. But I think the average consumer will have a really hard time knowing what's greenwashing and which not. So that's why I'm very grateful that Jeff Watts is paving the way for us to have a directory, because I think that will be the only thing that could work. And I can tell you, unfortunately, most names that consumers know will never make that directory.
Yeah, but that's the harsh reality of it, right? So hopefully we can get that out there and make some noise that the people are actually conscious of it.
I hope by the end of the year we'll have that list, if not before.
All being well, right? Can you share some specific examples of how Buena Vida Specialty Coffee is committed to, say, sustainability and supporting the farmers for someone that wants to, perhaps look into your product, go, okay, brilliant. Where is my dollar going?
So the dollar is going that way. We decided that we just don't buy from farmers. We represent farmers.
Yeah.
We really are working closely with the farmers on the ground, like we say, with facilitating working capital, with guiding them, with commercializing their product, and by giving them full transparency about what we buy their coffee from and what we sell it to at. Mm-hmm. Why? Because we want the farmers to own the process. So right now, we represent over 500 farmers. We could represent 10,000 if we had the infrastructure, but we're 5 people working at Buena Vida and a lot of people who help us, like you, but it's still not enough to represent more farmers. Pilar Portela, who's an incredible human being, is helping us figure out more the technical platform that we can work on. As I mentioned, the institutions and the ecosystem around us is helping. But we really represent farmers. We take them as partners. We don't just buy and sell. We don't have transactional relationships. Farmers call us with even personal issues, and we're there. We're there for them.
Nice.
And we go the extra mile.
Yeah.
We're always available for them. It's hard work. It's really hard work, Adam, because they have been so mistreated. And many of them can't even believe that we're helping them. Even after 4 years, they're still, when we show up and we solve the problem, they're like, well, what do you need from us? What do you want from us? And we're like, nothing. And they give us hugs and say, why do you do that? Why are you helping us? They can't understand. They can't fathom. We had an incredible meeting at the Cafe last month with 30 of our farmers. And they were all still, they're in the process. They're certified Regenerative. They've seen that we paid for their certification. They didn't. They said, how do we pay you back? And we said, well, if the client pays you more, we hope you give us our cost back. And if they don't, then you don't. And they're like, how does it work? Where's the catch? Where's the catch, Callie? Where's the catch, Alex? Where's the catch, the rest of the team? We're like, there's no catch. Time will tell. There is no catch. The catch is we represent you. We work with you. We're an extension of you. We really are your face. We really want to work with you. We put the name on the farm everywhere. And if you decide to go buy directly from there, that's fine. If that's what the farmer wants and that's how the farmer wants to work, that is fine.
It's a lovely
We're okay with it.
Yeah.
It's a partnership. And it's the same with our buyers. We choose our buyers, like we said, and we go the extra mile. We could grow much faster. We don't want to. We want to prove what we do. We want to do more, talk less.
Yeah.
We want to be different. We want to be Patagonia is our model. We want to be like a Patagonia of coffee. Do things right. Prove yourself over time.
Yeah.
Growth doesn't come overnight. When it comes overnight, it means it's somebody else's shoes, and we don't want to do that.
Agreed. It's been wonderful picking your brain on this topic, and thank you for coming on. The last question I have for you, and I hope it's positive at the end, where do you see the future of coffee farming in Costa Rica, especially with the emphasis on regenerative?
Our farmers say that we give them hope. We're filled with hope. We get phone calls from all over Latin America and even some African countries. Everybody wants this model. And because Kiss the Ground and Common Ground are leading the way, because there are millions of people watching the documentaries and understanding how we should restore health to the planet and to us humans, food is medicine. Because we chose the right path, we feel it. Every day we have new partners. Every day we have new consumers. Every day we have new people who want to be part. And we're beyond hopeful. We know for a fact that this will be successful for farmers, not just in Costa Rica, everywhere. And we're here to serve. We're here to really serve farmers. In November, December, we're opening a roaster in Costa Rica. It's a house for farmers.
Yeah.
It's a roaster and a cupping room for them. So they can meet 20, 30 buyers, not on their farm, not feeding them and launching them to see if somebody buys their coffee.
Yeah.
We'll help them negotiate. We'll give them all the tools they need. We'll work with them. We want to bring dignity back to farming. We want their kids and grandkids to say, Ma, Pa, we're going to the university. We're going to be super smart. We're going to study wherever we study, but we'll always come back because farming has a lot of dignity and it's very much needed. We don't want to eat moon food. We don't want to eat plastic. We want to eat food that is nutritious, not the food of today, that most of the food is 50% less nutrition than it was. 70% of all US food is processed and ultra processed. We got to eliminate that, Adam. That causes disease. That causes cancer, mental health, ALS, MS. I mean, I can't even
it goes on the list.
Dementia, it just goes on and it's proven. So let's get rid of bad food. Let's give coffee back its hope, its dignity, and give farmers a place they deserve.
100%. I think it's a great mission. It's a wonderful vision, and Costa Rica is a great place to begin it. You've already done an amazing job over the last few years, and I'm super excited to see where it goes in the next few years.
Thank you, Adam.
I would love to get you back on, perhaps, sometime next year.
Whenever you want.
We can see how this has expanded, and if we can send some guests to the new roastery here in San Jose when it opens later this year, I think that would be a fantastic experience for people to understand as well.
There would be amazing art, amazing music. It would be such a tourist attraction. So they can meet and talk to farmers. No Disney World here.
Exactly. I will make sure to put your link in the description box below for those watching on YouTube, so they can reach out. They can have a look at the Buena Vida products as well as your vision and your mission as a larger brand at whole. But Gali, thank you so much for coming on to speak to me.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed so much. Thank you.
Fantastic. Hopefully we'll chat again very soon. Take care.
I can't wait. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, I hope you found that episode as insightful as I did, especially learning an awful lot about the sustainable practices of regenerative agriculture and Costa Rica coffee production here. If you're interested in learning more about Buena Vida, you can check out the link in the description box below, and also their products if you're interested in actually tasting that delicious cup of coffee from Buena Vida. Please don't forget to give us a like or a thumbs up if you're enjoying this episode. And of course, please do hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. If you have any questions or comments for me, or even Gali or Buena Vida, the team, let us know in the comments box below and I'll get straight back to you. So from me, Adam Baker, see you next time on the Costa Rica Travel and Living podcast. Hasta la próxima.